Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show on AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. Happy Valentine's Day, everybody. Happy Valentine's Day. I hope that you are blessed and surrounded by love. I got my first flowers. Well, yeah, they were the first flowers that I got. I had to show them to you a couple of days ago from my dad. That's right. Oh, I love him so much. And he's always the first one to give me flowers. Thankfully, not the last, but the first. And I love that about him. Happy Valentine's Day, everybody. Let's talk about the Democratic establishment versus the progressives, the activists. It seems that there was a closed door meeting that has now been leaked into the public sphere. Axios is reporting it, and other news outlets are reporting it. Hakeem Jeffries, the minority leader in the House of Representatives, and the minority leader, Chuck Schumer, from the U.S. Senate, apparently had a meeting with Indivisible and with Move On. And it was contentious, to put it mildly. The leadership, the top leadership on the Democratic side reportedly said, look, you all are flooding our phones with these hundreds, now really thousands of phone calls every single day. Would you please stop? Move On and Indivisible and other grassroots activists, whether they were in the room or not, are saying, would you please be the loyal opposition? Because that's what we need you to do right now. I mean, we've got a president who is not governing, but ruling. We are getting executive orders instead of votes that are going to the floor. Why are we getting votes that are not going to the floor? Because maybe the votes are not there. Because there's a razor thin margin between the Democrats and the Republicans. You saw how many votes they had to conduct in order to get a speaker a couple of years ago. Sam Rosenthal, political director for Roots Action. You saw that, but it didn't end there. They threw him out. So it's very clear that there are a lot of, or should I say, there is a lot of contentiousness in the Republican caucus because there's a lot of contentiousness in the American body politic, within the culture. The popular vote, not the electoral vote, but the popular vote was a lot closer than many people want to admit. President Trump got just above 49%, and Kamala Harris got just above 48%. Somewhere between Jill Stein and Robert Kennedy, and more than that, 900,000 New Yorkers alone did not vote. You start pulling these numbers, and we haven't even talked about voter suppression, which Greg Palast has pulled. He's pulled those numbers. No one's talking about that. There's a lot. So wait a minute. The Democratic leadership, I think that they are aiming at the wrong target. So what do you think? What about Democratic progressives and just progressives in general? Don't you think we need them? They've got the energy in the party. They've got the energy. They've got the young people. We just had Texas State Representative, the head of the Legislative Black Caucus in the state of Texas, where more Black people, Sam Rosenthal, live than any state in the union. He said, wait a minute. You know, these are the people that we need. We need their energy. And you know, in the state of Texas, it is law, Sam, for you to register all high school seniors. Now, I'm not going to wait on the Democrats to do things, but somebody's got to do something. And I keep going back to what happened 40 years ago, but it really was a big thing because Reverend Jesse Jackson registered more people than anyone in the history of the Republic. And he was not welcomed by the Democratic Party either time he ran. And many people think that he ran to expand the Democratic Party. No, he ran to expand democracy, everybody, and to solidify the Republic. The only portal that you had open was the Democratic Party. What was he going to do? Run with Reagan? Are you serious? No. But the fact is, the Democratic Party has remained unwelcoming to their energy, which are the progressives, which are the young people. And so let me get one of our young people with us, who's the political director of Roots Action. And I want to know what you think about this meeting, about this back and forth, because we need to talk about this. In the state of Texas, for example, every high school senior is supposed to be registered to vote. I think that Governor Abbott Instead of going sending busloads of people all across the country, why don't you register these people to vote? I didn't say register Democrats. I'm saying finish their education, finish their civics education, and make them voters, or at least give them the option, right? So you got to talk to me. I want you to meet Santita Jackson over on Blue Sky, everybody. SantitaJackson.bsky.social. And I'm on X at SantitaJ and the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. Please get on over there. And hey, Jewel. Hey, Lorraine. Hey, Carol. My sister from another Mr. Mike and Bernadette. Everybody like and share, like and share, like and share. We had a lot of you in the last hour. But I'm really trying to kind of beat the bushes on this because Sam, this is like the stuff that's been whispered, right? When we were at the Democratic National Committee a couple of weeks ago now, what was stunning to me was as I was looking around the room and as I was listening to people talk, I said, you have no idea what's going on in Chicago. You have no idea what's going on in Louisiana. They put no money into Cleo Fields' campaign. Cleo Fields became a congressman. He was the first Black congressman elected from Louisiana since Reconstruction. This was almost 40 years ago when he was a kid just out of law school. He's a proven vote getter. And they didn't even think about putting money in that campaign. I mean, what? And so now they're going after Roots Action, because that's MoveOn.org. It's all of us activists. What is the deal, Sam? I've said all this stuff. You've got the runway. I need you to help me. And we've got someone from Make Some Noise here in Chicago. Watch what you say, Sam. She is a community psychologist, so we always have to watch her. But Sam, talk to me. I mean, when you read this story, what do you make of it?
Yeah. Well, first, thanks for having me back. It's great to be back here. I think it just underlines how, as you were just saying, how out of touch the party leadership is with their base right now. And
Mm-hmm.
this was a problem in the election. It was, one of the reasons, not the only reason, but one of the many reasons that former Vice President Harris, wasn't able to defeat Donald Trump was because the base was really shunned by the party leadership. There was energy, there was enthusiasm to be had, but there were major disagreements between the activist base, progressives like me, people on the left of the Democratic Party, and party leadership, and they were unwilling to meet us to talk about those differences in policy and approach, and instead decided that they would shun people who were really instrumental to Joe Biden beating Donald Trump 5 years ago now. So instead of embracing their activist core, I think we see this pattern over and over again. Democrats instead pivot and they say, okay, well, so if we're going to lose votes from, people who have traditionally formed our base, working class people of color, young people, we can get those votes back. Chuck Schumer said this, I'm paraphrasing, but he said, for every person that we lose, that's, a working class person of color, young person, we'll pick up 2 votes in the suburbs, among sort of white upper middle class, college educated people. And that's been the Democratic Party's strategy for the last couple cycles. And it really hasn't worked. I mean, Joe Biden got over the finish line against Trump. That was historically a strange election. It was in the middle of a pandemic. We had some of the highest voter turnout we've ever seen. Donald Trump was one of the least popular candidates running for re-election ever. So that's more of an aberration than it is proof of concept that the Democratic Party's approach has worked. And they've lost many other elections in between that one. So, I think people like me now, people who are on the progressive flank of the party, who want to be getting the Democrats more in touch with their grassroots, with the activists, are saying, you need to listen to what people are saying. When they're calling your offices, when they're saying, we're really alarmed about what's going on in Washington right now. We're really alarmed about what Donald Trump, what Elon Musk, a person who is on no ballot anywhere, is doing. I mean, he's running roughshod over the entire federal government. When people say stuff like that, the Democrats' response is, you're calling the wrong office, call the Republicans. I mean, that's a total abnegation of what their responsibility is here. And we understand they don't have, Republicans have trifecta control right now. So they're limited in what they can do in terms of traditional mechanisms inside Congress, in the White House. But what we're asking for is be creative, think outside the box. We have ideas. If you listen to us, maybe you can take some of those ideas and implement them, but be creative yourselves. You see the Republican Party, when they're in the minority, are creative all the time. They spared no expense in stymieing Barack Obama's agenda over the 8 years that he was in office. They were incredibly creative about ways to throw a wrench in the works there. And so what we're saying is we want to see the same thing from Democrats. We want to see militancy. We want to see you animating and working with the grassroots. We don't want to see you saying to us, you're talking to the wrong people. You're barking up the wrong tree. Take your gripe somewhere else. It's a ridiculous thing to say to people who are most in tune with what's happening in Washington. And I really hope that we see a change in tune from party leadership soon, because if not, it's going to be a really, really long 4 years. And they will need us again at the midterms in 2 years. And now's the time for them to start animating the grassroots again and working with the grassroots.
But see, the Republicans are animating their grassroots.
Sure.
I mean, when I listen to Steve Bannon has a message that is tailor-made for Black people, Black men in particular. He is saying, wait a minute. He has called Elon Musk out as an absolute racist. He said he is the most racist man in the world. He said he's from South Africa, guys. He said this. And he said, these people, hey, he said, migrants, God bless you, God help you. But you're taking jobs from Black men, from white men, from Hispanic men, blah, blah, blah. Come on, our people need jobs. He's making a case that he is resonating with people.
Yeah.
And his popularity is growing, because what we missed from 2020 was that Trump got 12 million more votes than he got 4 years before. So he was someone he was fear-mongered out of office. But let's be very clear, his popularity is held and has continued to grow. And he's becoming more popular just because, for a whole lot of reasons, but people see movement. That's what I've been asking folks, as we're looking at all of these polls that are saying Black men, they're surprised that Black men are embracing him. I'm like, I don't know why you're surprised. Black people are also conservative, Sam, socially. So with the exception of, white supremacist race and white supremacist and racism that they spew, the Republicans can be a fit. But what people need are folks who are going to deliver.
Yeah.
And for them to tell people, I mean, before I come to you, Dr. LaShawn Latrice, and you, Chaparral Wells, I mean, because they work on the ground here in Chicago. I'm trying to find out how it is that they would have the temerity to get angry with with the grassroots, with the people who they're going to turn around and say, they're going to wag their fingers in their faces and say, we lost because you didn't get out here. But I'm like, but you've been disrespecting me all along. They don't pour any money into these organizations. They don't do get out the vote. They don't do any of that.
That's right.
I mean, Sam, what are you supposed to do? I mean, as a young person, because you're young enough to be mine. But I'm saying you all, like Jonathan Greenblatt, when he was the head of the ADL, when he was meeting with other Jewish leadership, he said, you guys, you don't understand. You keep thinking this is a right-left issue that we've got going because we're losing the PR war after October 7th. He said, no, this is a generational thing. There's been a shift. In America, there's been a shift. And Republicans are paying attention. Have you seen the press? Donald Trump has brought in podcasters to the press room. The person who is his press secretary, this girl is so sharp, she's not even 30.
Yeah.
And the Democrats, I've got Nancy Pelosi on a walker. Now, mind you, she had an accident. God bless her. But come on.
Yeah.
Sam.
So I think that's all right what you're saying. We've seen a concerted effort from the Democratic Party to keep younger people out of leadership positions. They have a good bench of young progressive leaders there, or younger than the current leadership there, who they could promote into leadership positions. But we just saw, for example, AOC being considered for an oversight committee position that was given to Jerry Conley, ultimately, someone who's 30 or 40 years older than she is. And this is the kind of pattern that we see repeated over and over again. So they stymie their own generational change there because they're sort of keeping their younger cohort under the thumb of older leadership. That's one problem. I think the other problem, as you say, is that Republicans are just offering a much more compelling alternative right now. Republicans have differences within their caucus. They have big differences. I mean, we saw the fight that Steve Bannon had with Vivek Ramaswamy and Elon Musk when Ramaswamy was still there about H-1B visas. I mean, it's kind of a in the weeds fight, but people like Musk and Ramaswamy who want really cheap labor were saying, no, we want to bring immigrants who are good at programming into the country so they can work at our companies. And Bannon was saying, hold on, I thought this was a nativist administration. I thought we were anti-immigration. So that was a big blow up, a big dispute, maybe one of the reasons Ramaswamy left. But what they're focused on, despite these big major policy disputes that they have within the Republican caucus, is one, they're focused on winning. They know how to win and they like winning. And they tell their base, we're going to win. That's their top message.
Mhm.
And their other message is, we are going to tear up the system. And when people are feeling in their lives day to day, everything's too expensive. I can't afford rent. I can't afford groceries. I can't afford to pay for childcare, to pay for new clothes for my kids. And then, like the Democrats, you get up on stage and you say, we're going to keep the course. We're going to make tweaks on the margin, but basically things will stay the same. Or as Joe Biden famously said, nothing fundamentally will change. That's not a winning message at all. That's not something that people want to hear, regardless of their station in life. So when Democrats say, we're going to stay the course, we're going to keep things as they are, and then Republicans say, you deserve for the system to be blown up because it doesn't work for you, that's a much more appealing message for people. There are people within the Democratic Party, people like me, who say this system also needs to be blown up. This is a rotten system. There are people like Cori Bush, before she was pushed out of Congress at the back of millions and millions of dollars of spending against her, who is one of the best, most progressive voices in Congress, who would also say this is a rotten system. But the Democrats, instead of having the backs of these people who are the most strident left voices in their caucus, are actually kind of happy to see them go, and they get more compliant people in who won't be a problem for their donors, who won't be trying to stir things up too much. And so that's the problem we have right now, is that we have a Democratic Party who I don't see signs that they want to fight and win. And what people like me are saying, again, people who are closer to the grassroots, are saying, we want you to fight, we want you to win. If you can't win, at least show us that you're fighting. Don't say you have to call someone else, you have to talk to someone else about that problem. You are our representatives. We're not going to call a Republican office. They don't want to hear from us. We're calling you. So can you do something about this now? And I think it's a really big problem if they can't say to people, to constituents, to activists, what it is that they're going to do, and say it soon. Figure it out quickly.
Chuck Schumer saying, we will win. That's not a winning message. See, I know they don't want Maxine Waters, but she's got the energy. Being in the 80s, I don't care about it. She's in her 80s, I get it. She looks like she's ready for the fight. And she will do it. But they continue to put down the fighters.
Yeah.
And that's not good. They're going to continue. They're hemorrhaging Black men. And they're losing some Black women too. They are. They've lost Latino men. I mean, and people are disaffected. More than 900,000 New Yorkers didn't vote. I mean, wow. That's unbelievable. And only heaven knows how many people decided to stay home behind, uncommitted, and just being turned off. It's like, Dr. LaShawn Latrice making noise for change. I think that Sam Rosenthal, political director of Roots Action, has made a compelling case.
I agree. I think that when we look at this entire picture, there has to be some radical changes made. It's not going to be done with the same old rhetoric that looks like you're afraid to say something, but you're saying something to appease people. It's almost like we're being patronized. and kind of pushed to the side to make us believe something's being done. But the actions and the reactions are showing the truth of what is really happening before our eyes. And so I've been saying it all along, Santita, until we unite and we get on the same accord, no matter what the differences are, we are not going to be able to strike as hard as we need to.
Former Wisconsin State Senator Dr. Lakeisha Myers, educator, and still in the political fight. You're doing a lot of work with Rainbow Push and just working with a lot of people and your sorority, Alpha Kappa Alpha. I'm not going to hold that against you, my sister in Greekdom. Happy Valentine's Day to you. I see I'm even wearing pink today. Come on, girl.
It looks good on you. It looks good on you.
Yeah, but I'm showing off Delta. But I'm loving you. but talk to me. I mean, you see this pushback. And we're just having fun, everybody. It's all love, just so that you know. When you see this pushback on activists, I mean, the people who have the energy, and these young people, you know, when Reverend went up, really trying to get people to vote this fall, when you brought him up to Wisconsin, and when you see these young people, they don't want to hear the same old message. Dr. Myers.
That's okay that they don't want to hear the same message. And I agree with a lot of things that Sam and Dr. LaShawn said. I will counter with this, though. Energy means nothing without education. One thing that you can point to Reverend Jesse Jackson saying when he was a young person behind Dr. King and other people who were in the movement was he studied to know himself approved. You didn't just wake up one morning and become Reverend Jesse Jackson. He had to understand what happened in the past to know where to go. A lot of times we have these microwave revolutionaries. I'm just going to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of people who like the marches. They like the speeches. They like to be a part of the cause. But when it comes down to understanding that marches are not enough and that, you know, the revolution actually costs some work and that you have to actually do that work, then you start to see people peel off. So I get what folks are saying, but I also want to say that there's a salient point where education comes into play, and that sometimes I see that missing in the grand scheme of things.
Mm-hmm.
You talked about people who voted uncommitted. You talked about folks who sat at home. They didn't read the tea leaves. They didn't know what was going to happen if they stayed at home. Disaffection has consequences, just like not voting has consequences. So I'm looking at this from a perspective of being justified, but also where to point your anger. And to a certain degree, that's not pointing it at people who are in the minority and doing their jobs by trying to keep the republic together at this point, because it's held together right now by probably spit and glue at this point, because every day this man comes up with a new executive order, a new court case to fight the executive order that happened, and a new tariff on this country or that, and everything else is happening. So we're crumbling at the same time, where people are also saying, but you got to fight harder. The job of a legislator is to legislate. That's what was in my job description when I was in the State House. Now, I did a whole lot of other stuff that dealt with other grassroots social service, all those types of things, constituent services. But what I was prescribed to do was legislate on behalf of my community. Now, what Sam is talking about is kind of insider baseball. When you're talking about people like Cori Bush, folks who raise, you know, concerns and say things, and yes, they can get pushed out. You looking at one of them right here. But do you stop doing that work? No, Cori hasn't stopped doing the work on the ground. Jasmine Crockett is still a valuable voice to the Democratic Party right now, calling truth to power, and Maxine Waters is doing the same things. There are others like them that are doing. Should more do that and elevate their voices? Yes. And I think you're starting to see that happen. But other than that, I think when it comes to the general public, Joe American, they have to understand that, number one, we told you what was going to happen if you stayed at home. Look at the people who are now having buyer's remorse in Michigan when you played this long game of, I'm gonna go with Donald Trump because he told me he was going to do X, Y, and Z for with the issues in Israel and Palestine, and then you say you lied to us. The man lies for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. What did you expect?
But
So,
but let me say this: Kamala wasn't going to change anything because they were not going to let her, because this is a
but the
bipartisan.
will of public pressure could help that. So again, when I'm saying tailor your anger to somebody that's going to do something for you. So
But
when
what?
you march and you say
Mhm.
that, that was the time to do that and try to get her to bend. But I
But
think
what I'm saying is, wait, hold on, because even because that unfortunately she lost, and
right.
there's so many that people are reporting on that and they're unpacking that, and
Mhm.
some of it was she was running with people who did not. She was running with Biden's people who were not thrilled about her running. So there's
Exactly.
part of that. But she was
Absolutely.
also never the strongest candidate. That having been said, she was also a constricted candidate. Rania Patrice, Palestinian American
Right.
activist, who is also who's been a leading voice in the Democratic Party as an activist for years, said, "I'm wondering if she's the captain or the captive."
But
And
what I'm trying, I hear
no,
you, but I'm saying
no,
two
but what
things
I'm
can be
saying,
true at the same time.
no, all these things are true. But I'm saying
Yes.
that now that we're here in this moment, because part of my job is to, when you're talking with two of the titans of the party,
Mm-hmm.
Hakeem
Mm-hmm.
and Chuck Schumer, I have respect for them. I really do, tremendous respect. That you don't come at these people who can really help you. That's not smart politics, Dr. Myers. That's
But
not.
neither, and I would say the counter is the same. Neither is trying to throw shade and tomatoes and whatever else is with the people who have your best interest at heart.
But you know why I disagree with you? I disagree because I've learned that in leadership you're going to take some hits, and
You are.
people are going to say things to you that are going to hurt your feelings
Mm-hmm.
and all of that. But what you have to do is, as an organizer, is be very patient with people and work with them and invite them in. And what you do? Say, you know what, why don't you come in here and start working in my office? I can't pay you as an employee, but you know what? When you're going to be up here on the hill, you can have a desk. See, that's thinking outside the box. These people can't be captive of the system while they're working in it. They got to be a captain of it. FDR told A. Philip Randolph when black
Mm-hmm.
folks said, hey, you know what,
Make
I'm
me
getting
do it.
lynched. He said, go out in the streets and make me do it. He said, you're right. I know you're being lynched. I know you're not being treated as citizens in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what you need to do? You need to go out in the streets and make me do it. And I need you to fight. And we fought, came back, nothing had changed. And we said, okay, now we got another fight. I got all of that. I'm just saying now you got people who are going back home in these streets and who are angry and who are hurt. And when you're in leadership, you cannot afford to treat people that.
But I don't see it as being dismissive. I think we have to look at it from from two different lenses. I
Mm,
hear what you're saying and I agree with what you're saying because I've been in that position
yeah,
to do that. The other piece of this is what I'm doing now is really peeling back the layers and teaching civic engagement
yeah, me too.
on the ground because like I said, there's a lack of education. We got the energy piece. We got people that want to do the marches and want to do that thing, but do they understand how it actually works? And many of them don't. They get
Well,
upset, they're just upset. And
yeah,
you lash out at the first person that you're upset about, but
but leaders have to understand that. Now that's something that I have learned in the movement and as we have moved into electoral politics. One of the things that I learned, that my father learned, that Reverend Jesse Jackson learned and taught, and that you saw with Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, and that I learned from my own pastor and the other great pastors. And you look at this flock and you got people who are coming from a whole lot of different places, Sam. Everybody. Chaparral, I'm going to come to you in a hot second. Dr. Latrice. And, I remember asking my pastor, Reverend Clay Evans, how is it that you have all of these people in these churches? Because so-and-so is, let's say, cantankerous and difficult.
mm-hmm.
And this person he said, because when you're shepherding the flock, it is not easy. But what you're trying to do is keep people in. And so he said, yeah, people are going to say some things to you. And my father has said that over and over and over again. People are going to say things to you that are going to hurt your feelings. And they might just outright be untrue or they will do things to you to try and attack you, even as you help them. But guess what? You have to be big enough to absorb it all. Like Michael, who is it? Muhammad Ali, rope-a-dope. He took hits round after round after round, but he had enough in that last round to knock you out. That's what a champion does. And my concern is,
who is the captain? That's the first.
well, also you got to be big enough to know that it's just like me here. I have the mic,
right?
so I can't drown you out. I gotta, and you, Hakeem Jeffries, you're 3 or 4 votes away from being Speaker of the House. Chuck Schumer, you're almost the majority leader. You're just a few votes away. You have to take the incoming fire, because you're the big guy in the room now. You're the big one, and you got to take the hit, and you got to be tough enough not to hit back, or should I say, not to strike back.
Not to strike back. And I think when you look at, and again, I don't know him personally, Sam, maybe you know more than I know when it comes to insider baseball as far as the party is concerned with Ken Martin. I don't know. He's the new captain of the team, of the party team is what I'm saying. So perhaps there will be more that will come on, under the tent. I always say there's room for everybody under the tent, but then making sure that voices don't get pushed out or, tampered down because they are leaning a certain way, and give us more of the Jasmine Crockett's, of the Maxine Waters, Cori Bush style interrogation, if you will, and bring those voices together to have that conversation and to do that. But I think it's also incumbent upon not just congressional members, it's also incumbent upon state people that are in your state. They see these people every day. Me getting to Hakeem Jeffries is, okay, perhaps a long shot. But me talking to my state representative who's a member of my party, that person should be able to instruct me on how to have some grassroots advocacy, how to be civically engaged, how to move the needle on progressive issues.
And you're right. But that's why, just growing up in civil rights organizations, specifically Operation Push, Operation Breadbasket, the Rainbow, you engage in political education, which is what Roots Action does, because otherwise people don't know. They don't know. But Chaparral has been uncharacteristically quiet. I'm afraid of what she's going to say. Chaparral, remember, I'm trying to stay on the radio.
Thank you, Santita, for having me tonight. What I wanted to say is that I am very, very disenchanted as a Democratic person, as a progressive, because I am sitting here watching the dismantling of our country. And the only voices that we have are those that are in Congress. And basically, they are as silent as a mouse pissing on cotton.
Thank you.
To give wise saying to the crew. Because you cannot sit up here and blame Trump for any of this. I blame the Democrats, and here's why. Because we told them before the election happened, hey, you are really upsetting these people in Michigan. You can't win in Michigan without these people. Hey, you need to go over here to Pennsylvania and get these people GOTV. We need money on the ground to get out the vote. They didn't listen. We lost in a landslide. Even though the popular vote, as it begins to tally, it's closer, but the Electoral College, which is what really matters, we lost it in a landslide. Now we're sitting up here, we're watching day one, as he said, Trump is the mastermind of deception. He has a platform that he utilizes very well. And he continues to promote himself as this fixer of American problems. Even though he's in actuality, he's destroying America. But what we're seeing is that he is saying and doing whatever he wants to do. and he's saying what he's saying, and he mean what he say. When we flip that over, you have the Democrats whining and crying. The reason why the Democrats, let's just keep it real. I love you, Lakeisha, but let's just keep it real. Their alignment is almost 99% over here with the Republicans. That's why you have these blue dog Democrats sitting up here. Well, that's what they say, when a hit dog holler, you know you got it. So that's why they sitting over here mad at the progressives right now, because the hit dog is hollering. We calling them out on their BS. And the reality is that they are listening to us tell them what they should be doing, because it's going against what they generally believe in. They are more aligned with Republicans in policy. They just didn't have the heart to do it, but they've been cutting for a long time. So, Santita, as you always say, this is a bipartisan betrayal. And that's what we're seeing. However, the people are beginning to rise up. We know that we cannot win with the Republicans. So we have to force Democrats to do what we need them to do. So don't ask me to shut up when you have Elon Musk going through my Social Security, probably taking all my money and betting it on Bitcoin. No, I'm not going to shut up. I'm going to tell you, hey, you better go arrest him. Why ain't nobody arrested him? I'm an elected official. I don't give a damn what Trump say. He needs to be arrested. Why didn't they arrest Vladimir Putin, who has what is the IC warrant out on him? Why didn't they arrest him? That's what we're looking for the Democrats to do. Whatever power you got, use it. Sit up here and keep telling me to shut up, lay down, be quiet. We want to do it the old way. No, because they ain't working. The message is not getting to the people. You're looking soft and weak. And what is happening is that what we're seeing is that Trump is looking strong, even though he is weak as I don't know what, because Elon is.
Okay, you went out, Chapearl.
And he's a mastermind of deception. That's what we're seeing when we look at what's happening right now, Santita. And that's why I'm so angry that they would even push back on people that's trying to help you. We're trying to give you cover, dummy. We're trying to give you cover. If Move On or Indivisible are pushing the people, now you got a reason to say, hey, we had to buck back on the system because the people are writing us, calling us 24 hours a day. But because you are really aligned with the Republicans, this is why you pushing back on us. Don't tell me that we shouldn't be doing this, and when you know that we're your only hope. And all I've been saying since this new administration has gone into play is now I see how slavery occurred, how genocide occurred in Africa, how the Holocaust occurred, because we have been sitting here allowing it to happen. And we sitting up here letting Elon Musk give Hi Hitler to everybody and ain't saying a damn word. Pissed about what's happening, what I'm seeing in this country. And the fact is that we are not showing enough compassion for the people, because while you sitting around here cutting everything, people are dying. Children are starving in Africa. People are getting bombed. The rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer. So at this point, Santita, the revolution needs to happen today. And if the Democrats don't want to get on board, guess what? We're going to roll on over you, because we're not going to stop until y'all begin to listen and see what needs we have.
See, where we have to be careful, I think, Dr. Myers, my dear sister Lakeisha, and Chapearl Wells, and Dr. Latrice, and Sam Rosenthal, I'm going to kick it back to you, Sam, is I don't want us to not be able to read the room, Lakeisha. We're not reading the room. The masters of communication, and I've been around a few, they can walk up, they might have a speech in hand, they read the room, they throw that out. Say, that ain't gonna work here. And right now, running on joy when people cannot afford a dozen eggs. I saw something on TikTok earlier today. Wow, I've become a fan of that. And they were in a store, and they had these, the labels for the prices, and they were literally changing the prices for the bread and for the eggs, raising them $2 here, $3 there. I said, whoa, oh yeah, you have all over the internet. Well, this is what I paid 4 years ago for a week's worth of groceries. Same number of groceries. This is what I'm paying this year. We're not reading the room, and I don't ever want to be so inside that I can't understand what's going on out here with people. I understand why, even in a wheelchair, my father is pushing to go everywhere he can, and listening to people. We got to listen to folks. Dr. Latrice, Chaparral Wells, and Dr. Myers, we've got to listen to people. These people are bringing the information to you, and you know what? They might not know everything, and there's some things you can tell them, because what people don't know is that when you're elected to office, Sam, you have a different set of issues. I mean, Dr. Myers, the candidate, and Dr. Myers, the legislator. Whoa, it's a different day. I've tried to tell people, because everyone knows and has loved Brandon Johnson, our mayor here in Chicago. I said, hey, he's in a different position now, y'all, and we need him. So what we need to do is agitate over here so we can push him over here. See, if he didn't have people agitating, he never would have been able to break the deadlock on the ceasefire resolution in the city council. It was because there was so much street heat, he had the cover to do it. And what we need to, and what Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries and all of these fine people, and these are people I must fully disclose, these are people I know. I like them and I respect them. But I'm like, y'all ain't reading the room. Because see, I know what's happening, what Maxine Waters is listening to when she goes into Watts, South Central. I know what Congressman Jonathan Jackson's town halls look like. You know what you faced with people, Dr. Myers. These folks, they can't even afford rent. And that's what these folks are bringing to them, Sam. And then they're like, well, you can't have everybody calling you all the time. You can't do that.
That I agree was wrong, saying people should not call you, because that's a part of the job. You have to listen to people. My only contention, and I agree with everything that Chaparral talked about, like I said, all the other panelists have talked about, I agree with listening to people, because that's where you get your best information. It's not from people on the inside. You get your best information from people who are on the ground, who see everything through a clear family lens. They know what their family economy can afford. The other part of that is, I have to tell my people, you can't sit at home. Mm-hmm. You can't abdicate your responsibility as a voter. I don't care what the issue is. You will never 100% agree with anybody, politician or not, on everything. So for people who chose to sit at home or vote uncommitted or do whatever it was that they did that was not a part of building the team, working for the goal, that's not pressure. You didn't put the actual pressure on the people that you wanted to do the job. You let the other people get congressmen in there like Marjorie Taylor Greene and others who will continue to do more of the same. Chaparral talked specifically about the price of everything going up. She talked about, this being an issue in the community. But again, we have to steer people in the right direction. So I'm still saying all of these things can be true at the same time. Do I agree with folks in the closed room saying, I don't agree with, people call me, they calling me too much. I didn't care about that. Call me. That's what you're supposed to do. And I can tell you the same thing I'm telling you now. Let's come up with the strategy together. You want to march? Go march at this store on this day. I'll be there with you to do that.
But Lakeisha, that's the problem. They don't say that, because I've been in those rooms with those leaders. They become angry with the activists. Every time Reverend ran for president and the Democrats hold him up as their icon, which is an abject lie. Reverend has not been able to get a seat at the Democratic convention since 2004. They asked him not to come in 2008. Not been able to get a seat. Not one. We've always had to run against the party. Even as he's registered more people to vote than anyone in the history of the American Republic. We've always had
this is strategy too.
And mind you, he was like, well, this is not even about them. This is about getting us in power. And I'm simply saying, I have been in the room because I know these people at the top have a borderline contempt for folks. And
Yes.
I'm saying, you cannot do that. I have emceed some of these town halls for Congressman Jonathan Jackson and my brother, right? And one of them, and they're always contentious and they're always filled beyond capacity. We cut off at like 700. It started at 500 because you're trying to keep enough space so that people can get in the room, right? And one time, the part of him was being protective as a brother. But the other thing was he's tough enough to take. People were getting on the mic and they were like, no, they were going off. And I was going to come in as the moderator and moderate. He said, no, I got this. And he said, I was elected by you. So I'm here for you. And I asked for this. So you all tell me everything that you need to tell me, and I will take it back to Washington. He said, so I'm here. He put his arms out. He said, I'm here. Anything you got for me, I'll take it. Come on. That's what you have to do. And particularly with people who are hurting like this.
Mm-hmm.
And do they know the process? No. Do they understand that on the Hill, members speak to members and chiefs of staff speak to chiefs of staff? And the same thing happens in the State House. Everything is hierarchical. You got that because you've been an elected official. I've just been in the room. So you know this better than anyone. And you've been in the seat and you've been in the hot seat. I'm just saying that was like, read the room, you guys. Because
but I think we also have to know some of these people have to go as well. Progress often leads people to the door. So that's one of the things too. If you are that entrenched in the way of life that is not being effective for your constituents, I wholeheartedly agree that you need to be unseated. And I'm just going to be honest with that.
And honestly, that's all I'm saying, because we're not winning.
Right.
And see, it's not even about us winning. It's about the people winning.
Yes.
Because some too many adults and children are going to bed hungry in the United States, hungry tonight. Too many in this cold do not have heat. Too many are facing eviction. Too many landlords turn you down because you got a voucher. They don't want to be bothered with you because you're too poor. I mean, folks, what did the song say? Don't push me because I'm close to the edge. I'm trying not to lose my head. This precedes you, Sam. You don't even know anything about that. This is when it was rapped.
I know it precedes me, but I know the song. Yeah,
I know, but and Dr. Myers doesn't even know either. Nobody does, but Latrice and I. So Dr. Latrice, we're the only ones on this panel who really remember the song. But Sam, I want you to. But you know what? I want you to close things out. Dr. LaShawn Latrice, I can't believe so much of this time has gone on. We're going to continue to have this conversation because we've got the 2026 elections, everybody. That's what we're gearing up for. And we're 3 or 4 votes shy of being the Speaker of the House and putting Chuck Schumer or someone in the majority. And we need that. The Speaker of the House is the one who determines what votes are called, what laws are called, what laws are going to be debated and what laws are going to be voted on, what bills. That's what they do. So as long as Speaker Johnson is there, our interests are not going to be represented because that's not what he's doing. Should it work that way? No, but it does. Dr. LaShawn Latrice, you got a minute? Or so.
Well, I just want to say in conclusion, I really enjoyed this conversation. I think that if we could get more people in the room to engage in these type of discussions, people can understand what a well-rounded perspective looks like, and it will be beneficial for those who might not necessarily know how to research, how to become educated. One of the things we like to do is we like to go into rooms and empower people by bringing education and also answering questions and also bringing people that could enlighten us and educate us as well. So the way that we continue to grow this conversation is by letting people know that their voices matter and that they should be included, and they should not be afraid to talk to their colleagues or their family, friends, anyone in their circles about what's going on, because everybody's being impacted by the changes that are being made so drastically.
I mean, my goodness, Dr. Lakeisha Myers, we're going to have to do something here because you're just up the way in Wisconsin. We're going to do something. And no, really, I was talking to someone last night, and Sam, we're going to figure out if we can get you in for it, just to have one of these barbershop, beauty shop kind of conversations where we're talking across party lines. Because Americans have some problems, some real issues that we can't afford not to have these real conversations right now, Dr. Myers.
Absolutely. I think that you're correct. I think that if people go back and actually look at and read Dr. King's Where Do We Go From Here, the book and the original speech, the original speech especially, that he gave to SCLC, to talk about some of the social and economic issues of where he was headed prior to his death, that is an actual blueprint for a way forward. And I think when you look at what people consider progressive ideals and goals, that's it right there. And Dr. King was talking about that. So looking and pressing members of Congress and local elected officials, because a lot of this has to start at the local level. So your alderman, your city, your county council members, supervisors, all of those people, starting at the local level and then building up to Congress to get in actual change to actually happen. And then, like Dr. LaShawn said, also making sure that you get somewhere and get some type of civic education under your belt, whether that's Rainbow Push, the NAACP, anybody, whoever is giving it to you, because that's a piece that we really have to have. And we have to be able to bring folks together in that way so that we can continue to fight and not understand and not realize that abdication gets us nowhere. When we don't vote, when we don't do the actual work, when we just say, I'm going to sit this one out because I'm so tired of it. You can't be that tired that you don't participate. That's my whole thing. Don't be so tired that you don't participate. And for folks that are already under the Democratic Party tent, push from the inside out, because under Reverend Jackson, we wouldn't have the Democratic Party we have today had it not been for 84 and 88. So it's time for another regeneration of that to happen again. And that's, what I'm looking forward to as far as with Ken Martin and whatever else happens under the party tent, so we can push more for those ideals and party planks that we have that speak to the social issues of our community.
And just understand, Reverend Jackson was never an insider. And the party did not treat him well. They did not. He was always made to feel most unwelcome. But he said, this is not about the party, this is about the people.
That's right.
But he was also inspiring and lifting people up, which is what they're not doing now. Because we were at the DNC and they were changing the rules in the middle of the vote. Dr. Lakeisha Myers, I've never seen anything so insane in my life. Like, you got 14 million people who voted for Joe Biden, even though Roots Action said wisely 2 years before the election, don't run, Joe. And they were being told that they were blaspheming. They said, wait a minute, you said you were going to be a transitional president. You said you were only going to do one term. So what we need you to do is move on out the way, not resign, but move on out the way so we can have a primary season. They canceled the primary season. And then some oligarchs got together and said, okay, the 14 million people who voted, forget about it. Then the Palestinians, you got a moderate Palestinian dedicated about it, sister who's been active in democratic politics. She is an insider. You wouldn't let her speak on the stage. It's like y'all kept doing things where you were shooting yourself in the foot. Say what you want to say, but I tell you what, I understand how Black folks were feeling some kind of way about fighting for democracy over in Europe, and I'm getting lynched over here. Hold on, because they lynched Emmett Till's daddy over there, and then several years later came back and lynched his boy. So we got to stop that. I'm not going to scapegoat the Arab American community. These folks are losing their families. There are still millions of people who went on, who they did not register to vote. as Reverend would say, rocks laying around.
Mm-hmm.
But come on now. There's some people who they could have gone to get, but they didn't go get them. You got to do that. Everybody matters. Sam Rosenthal, political director of Roots Action, you got the floor.
Yeah, I mean, this has been a great conversation. Thanks again for having me. I think, what Dr. Myers said is right. We've got to continue to push out activists who are working right now. I think it feels like we're staring into the abyss, a lot of us. It feels very bad. It feels like we're not winning, but that the party is annoyed by us, party leadership is annoyed by us, is the first step to our ideas being heard within the party. So keep going, keep pushing. First they don't care, then they're annoyed, then we can overtake them, and then we win. So I'm paraphrasing, but something like that. So I just think that, it's a really hard moment. It's a completely demoralizing moment. It's hard to keep going. It's hard to be organizing, to be in conversations with people who are in pain, people who are suffering, people whose lives have been impacted, and who are really struggling just to get by, and to say to them, hey, we want you to do more. We want you to actually push harder, when every day is a struggle. But I think we have to keep doing that with compassion, keep talking to people, trying to meet them where they are, and say, we know that we can build a better future, but we have to do it together. We can't do it one-on-one, and we can't do it waiting for Hakeem Jeffries or Chuck Schumer or someone else to come save us, because I don't think that they're prepared to save us right now. I don't think they're equipped. So we have to provide the equipment to them and for ourselves, so that we can do what we need to do in this country, which is to urgently turn the ship around, so we can start to address some of the issues that are just so deep-seated in this country.
Amen to that. And, because at the end of the day, nobody's going to save us for us but us. Reverend Jackson said that too. And Dr. King did say, and right, where do we go from here? Chaos or community? It is our choice. But what we have to do is have compassion for those who are brokenhearted, and understand people who are disaffected. So understand people who feel like, I don't matter. They're being told that every single day. And we have to let them know, you got to keep hope alive. You are somebody. You matter. You really do. And you got to go on, and you got to keep on fighting, because you're not going to win every battle, but you can win the war. But you're not going to win the war unless you get in those battles. And sometimes you're going to be bloodied. But you got to get up and keep on fighting. You must. And you got to understand, all of these people, you don't need to throw the babies out with the bathwater. You don't need to just throw out Hakeem Jeffries in particular. He's so young. You don't need to throw out Chuck Schumer. You might, maybe you need somebody else. I don't know. But we don't need to do that. What you need to do is press them and make them do what you need them to do. Make them do it. That's their job. You make them do it. When we make them do it, and they will, everything's going to change. But you got to make them do it. They won't unless you do. I am Santita Jackson. Happy Valentine's Day, everybody. That's right. First person who loved me, first man who loved me, my dad. Of course, he's always the first person to give me flowers for Valentine's Day. Thank goodness, not the only, but that's him. Love him. Love you, Daddy. Happy Valentine's Day, everybody. Oh, yeah. I just had to say that. He just sent me these, and he knows I love pink, and he knows I love roses without extra stuff in it. So there we go. No, I can't stand all that extra. Sending you so much love. Happy Valentine's Day, Sam Rosenthal. Dr. LaShawn Latrice.
Thank you. Happy Valentine's Day to
family.
you.
Happy Valentine's Day, everybody. Love you, and God bless you on AM 950 Radio.